Mary Lou Deac-Volk, president of the Slovenian Union of America, has prepared her personal story of the role that the Slovenian Union of America played in the restoration and 2012 rededication of the Baraga Cross. As a member of Joliet Branch 20 of the Slovenian Union of America, I, Georgine Agnich, am honored that Mary Lou has asked me to present her story. Greetings to you all. The Slovenian Union of America was founded in 1926, and its national magazine, Zarya the Dawn, was established in 1929. Today, all the magazines have been digitized and are available online from the National and University Library in Ljubljana, Slovenia. A recent search of the name Frederick Baraga from the almost 1,000 Zarya magazines brought up 538 citations consisting of ads, stories, and announcements. As you can see, the Slovenian Union of America has been dedicated and committed to the Baraga mission since its inception. How did the Baraga Cross come into being? The memorial plaque on the cross states that Father Baraga and his Indian guide nearly lost their lives in 1848 when they set out onto Lake Superior in a small boat from Madeline Island in Wisconsin to investigate a possible epidemic among the Indians at Grand Portage, Minnesota. Their lives were spared when the storm blew them over a sandbar and into the quiet mouth of the Cross River. In thanksgiving to God, they erected a small wooden cross at the site, which was later replaced by the current granite cross in 1933. The time was September 2010. The late Yule Yost, a member of Twin Cities Branch 109 of the Slovenian Union of America, asked Mary Lou why there is no Baraga shrine in Minnesota. Yule, a refugee and a newcomer to Minnesota, could not locate any shrine on the state's map. Only Yule Yost would ask such a question. He was a dynamic man in every way, dedicated to the honor of Frederick Baraga. Yule dubbed Baraga as my hero and fellow countryman, a man whose intellect, linguistic abilities, and physical endurance make him worthy of sainthood. Mary Lou told Yule Yost about the Baraga Cross. A week later, Mary Lou received another call from Yule. He had made the 467-mile round trip to Schroeder, Minnesota to see the Baraga Cross and was dismayed by what he had found. The 3/10 of a mile pathway to the cross was in bad shape. Yule had to plow his way through brush, dangling vines, and overgrowth, only to find that the base holding up the heavy cross was deteriorating. It had been 77 years since the cross had been dedicated. Mary Lou wrote a letter to the late Bishop Serba of the Diocese of Duluth because the cross was a diocesan cross on diocesan land. Bishop Serba took action without delay. In the fall of 2010, Bishop Serba directed Father Seamus Walsh, pastor of St. John Church of Grand Marais, Minnesota, to come up with plans to fix the deteriorating cross and the neglected pathway. Father Walsh worked with Greg Gastecki, an engineer from St. John's, who supervised the entire project. They soon discovered that the cross and the pathway to it were actually outside the property lines of the original Cross River site that Mr. and Mrs. Horace Stickney had donated to the diocese in 1932 for the erection of a monument in memory of Father Baraga. New property lines were established, and the cross was moved some 6 feet onto diocesan property. In addition, a new 20-foot wide pathway, lined with over 400 cubic yards of crushed granite, was laid, leveled, and compacted, making the pathway wheelchair accessible. Boulders measuring 4 to 6 feet in circumference were placed along the pathway. Greg and Phyllis Miron donated a bench for the site. Because the cross was so close to the Cross River, riprapping was installed to protect it against erosion. The local garden club recruited 28 volunteers who planted 75 plants under some difficult digging conditions along the new pathway. In the spring of 2011, everyone awaited news as to when the restoration would be completed. During the construction phase, the Slovenian Union of America, partnering with its Twin Cities Branch 109, scheduled the rededication of the cross for September 15, 2012, after they had been assured of the completion date. Now for another twist. Around that same time, Mary Lou's book club in Iron River, Wisconsin, had been reading Ascent of God by noted Minnesota author Beryl Singleton Bissell, who lives near the Baraga Cross. Mary Lou and Beryl had made plans to meet at the rededication ceremony. On August 4, 2012, Mary Lou came home at 10:30 p.m. and found a message on her answering machine from Beryl saying, "See you at the cross tomorrow morning." Mary Lou was shocked. The only thing to do was to check the schedule of St. John's Church in Grand Marais on the internet. Yes, the rededication was indeed scheduled for August 5. At 11 p.m., Mary Lou phoned her daughter, Debbie Good, in Duluth. The next morning, Mary Lou and Debbie were on the road at 6 a.m., stopping only to purchase red carnations at a local grocery store. Mary Lou and Debbie were the only Slovenians present as Bishop Sirba performed the 15-minute ceremony for the rededication of the cross. Mary Lou and Beryl Singleton met for the first time, and Bishop Baraga's cross had red carnations that day. First, it was Yule Yost, Mary Lou's new friend from Branch 109 at the start of the Baraga Cross restoration. And now it was Beryl Singleton Bissell, Mary Lou's new friend, at the rededication of the cross. "Happy the day that placed me among the Indians," Father Baraga said. The Baraga Rendezvous, organized by Twin Cities Branch 109 of the Slovenian Union of America, took place on Saturday, September 15, 2012, with Lake Superior waves lapping the shoreline. Some 47 people who had traveled from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan gathered in a circle near the 6-foot Baraga cross. Traditional Slovenian songs played by John Stark and Karen Medved on the button box accordions prefaced the 2-hour ceremony that paid homage to the life of Bishop Baraga. Deacon Peter Mueller from St. John's Church shared a blessing, emphasizing the importance of Bishop Baraga's accomplishments among the Native Americans. Lenora McKean, Associate Director of the Bishop Baraga Association in Marquette, Michigan, spoke next. In addition to extolling Bishop Baraga's accomplishments, she outlined the steps which the Holy See has established for sainthood. Former Minnesota Congressman Jim Oberstar then addressed the gathering, crediting Bishop Baraga with paving the way for many Catholic priests from Carniola and the Habsburg Empire to become missionaries to the Native Americans. Their labors laid the foundations of Catholicism in the upper Midwest. Mary Lou Dayak Volk next chronicled significant quotations attributed to Bishop Baraga. As she read, a magnificent bald eagle suddenly appeared, soaring majestically over the gathering, perhaps blessing the audience with Bishop Baraga's presence. One could not ignore the symbolism. There was not a dry eye on the shore of Lake Superior at that moment. The late Father Michael Tegeter, pastor of a Native American church and resident priest of St. Francis Cabrini Church in Minneapolis, then spoke about Bishop Baraga's respectful and supportive relationships with the Native Americans. Professors Claire and Larry Martin, who are themselves part Native American, talked about the hymns that Bishop Baraga co-wrote with the Native American elders. Professor Martin blessed the Baraga cross with a handful of tobacco and then taught the audience two Native American Christian hymns. Everyone present that day had a spiritual experience and gained a lasting appreciation for Bishop Frederick Baraga's legacy, as symbolized by the Baraga cross.